my left ear's like super clogged, so I had to go take off work and go to the doctor's. So this is my day, but I'm gonna get some KFC after this. Hey there, Net Best Buddies, welcome back to the channel. As always, I'm Ray, and today we're going to be looking at Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. I still can't hear out of my left ear. It's a few hours later, and I've just woken up from my KFC food coma. So, a little out of it. So, I'm continuing my, I don't even know how many days long trek through the Star Wars filmography. And this is the second day, so I'm talking about the second movie. Yesterday was the first day, talked about the first movie, and how boring it was. And despite my memory, I think this movie is actually a little better. So as always, definitely go down, subscribe so you can stay updated with this is throwing me off, this whole can't hear out of this ear thing. So as always, while I have you at the beginning of the video, definitely go and subscribe. Oh my god, this is really throwing me off. So as always, definitely go down and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all the videos that I do put out. And my question in this video is, are there any movies where you can remember exactly where you were and who you were with when you saw them? This is definitely one of those movies for me. I remember going to Wildwood Beach for a Boy Scout camping trip for some reason. I think we camped on the beach with my dad. It was really rainy during the middle of the week. And I was like, hey, Papa, can we go see the new Star Wars? And so we did. And I remember it blowing my mind as a child. And, you know, a few weeks ago, I found out that my dad had fallen asleep during the movie. So there's that. So let me know down here in the comments if you have any memories like that with movies. After an assassination attempt on her life, Padme and beefy boy Anakin traveled to Naboo to protect her. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan tracks down an assassin and uncovers a cloned army for the Republic, as well as plans for an intergalactic war. So I always thought that this movie was the worst of the prequels. I don't really remember liking it aside from when I was a child, but upon rewatching, I gotta say, it's pretty close with Phantom Menace, with, I guess, the level of quality. I wasn't bored for the majority of this film like I was the Phantom Menace, so I guess that gives it a leg up, and I gotta say, I actually found myself enjoying the plot of this movie a good amount. So while I was bored for a lot of the first film, I was very uncomfortable for a lot of this film, and that's for the much talked about romance between Padme and Anakin. We know who, but who wrote this stuff? Like, it's super kind of controlling and a little predatory at some points. It's very uncomfortable. I needed a shower after watching this one. Even though I will say that there are like slight moments where they seem to have good chemistry together. But other than that, I mean, my god, I just felt gross watching it. Baby Gregor, once again, does a really good job, and I thought Natalie Portman did a much better job than she did in the first film. The late Christopher Lee, such a great addition to the franchise. He was really good as Count Dooku. I liked him a lot. Now, Hayden Christensen, not the best performance. I definitely think, at least from what I remember, we'll see if this is actually true, I definitely think he's better in the third movie, but much like with the fleeting instances of romantic chemistry, there were a few moments where I thought he did give a good performance. Specifically, one that comes to mind is when he's talking to Padme about how he just slaughtered a whole bunch of sand people. I thought that was pretty good. But yeah, not a great performance. But I'm not gonna crap on the guy any more than I need to, because he's a human. And I'm so glad we're finally at the point where we've accepted him back into Star Wars fandom. He got like a standing ovation at Star Wars Celebration a few years ago. And I gotta say, during Last Jedi, when Luke goes up to burn the tree with the books or whatever, and he goes towards the opening, I was hoping that Anakin's hand would come out and just stop him from burning it. I don't know why, I really wanted him in there. I thought it would have been so cool, but we didn't get him. But, you know, hopefully in Rise of Skywalker. So they introduced a lot in this movie, and I don't think they introduced a lot of it well. Some of which being the introduction of Master Sifo Dyas, which is a character we've never heard of before, and not much information is given to. And if you're only going off this movie, you are very confused as to who this character is. I think when I was younger for the long time, I thought that was like another name for Count Dooku. But it's not. It's a whole nother dude. And also, they really forced in the most overhyped character in all of Star Wars, Boba Fett. Yeah, I said it. He did nothing in this movie besides laugh maniacally and pick up his father's severed head, only to later spray paint it green. And he doesn't do anything ever in any of the movies he's in. He just stands there and dies like a punk because he can't climb out of a pit. Fight me on it. He's garbage. Now, the whole Colosseum fight sequence with all the Jedi, super cool in concept. But just watching it, for me, it's just blatantly obvious that the direction the actors were given was just fling your lightsabers around, do whatever cool kicks you want to do, just do whatever. We'll paint some crap around you. There's moments where it looks like the actors are on their own in the real world on a blue screen set. In the movie, they're standing next to other characters, but it just looks like they took like the shots of an actor over here and then the shots of an actor way over here, and then they just like moved them close to make people look like they're close together. There were a few moments that stood out for me like that. And even in one of the bonus features, I think on either the DVD or the Blu-ray, George Lucas literally tells Natalie Portman on the conveyor belt scene, just roll around, do whatever, we'll paint stuff around you. It's just so obvious, and it really takes me out of it. And then we have the lightsaber fight scenes. Super disappointing for me. One, because they're really poorly choreographed. And two, because I don't really want the climax of my movie to be Count Dooku's stuntman pretending to fight Yoda, who's going to be CGI'd in later, even though they have like a stand-in for Yoda, and to mess with Christopher Lee, apparently they taped like Dracula fangs on him. That's funny. But that's not what I'm looking for in a climactic fight scene between the Grand Master of the Jedi and his former apprentice. It was so disappointing. So the visuals, I think, are kind of a mixed bag, because some of them have held up pretty well, some of them have not. Let's start with the ones that did hold up pretty well, because anytime there's a battle between CG characters, I think it looks really good. The war between the Geonosis armies and the clone army, specifically the shot where the dust is all over and they're just firing blindly into the clouds, that looked amazing. All that stuff looks really good. The problem is when you try to put live actors next to these CG characters, it just does not work at all, and it takes you out of the movie completely. Speaking of putting live actors next to imaginary things, it's just so blatantly obvious whenever they're just on a massive blue screen set. I feel like they never built a set in this movie at all. Again, just further proving that practical is far superior to CG. Use CG when you have to, like absolutely have to. Superman flying around a city destroying buildings? Yeah, you need CG for that, but sprinkle in some practical. People walking around in the Chancellor's like office, and I think they did this for the third one too, make it practical. Lastly, just a fun thing that I noticed at the end of the movie is the way that it's set up and shot looks a lot like the end of Empire Strikes Back, with the guy and the girl looking out into the distance, and then the two droids are there and the guy's got a robot hand. That was pretty interesting. It definitely reminds me of in episode 1 how the last scene is kind of similar to that of A New Hope. So the movie's nowhere near as bad as I remember it being, and I found myself enjoying most of it, but the flaws definitely weigh this one down. Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones scores a 6 out of 10. Yeah. So that's my review for Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones. I'm glad I'm done with this section of the Star Wars movies, because these are the ones that are more or less definitely in the mediocre category. And then I move on to like the Clone Wars animated and Revenge of the Sith, which is pretty good. And then we go to the original trilogies, and then the sequel trilogy, and Rogue One's in there. And I'm not doing Solo because I don't feel like I need to watch Solo to make sure I know everything going on with the Skywalkers. But like I said at the beginning of the video, definitely go down and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all the videos that I do put out. Give the video a like, share a movie with a loving friend, and answer the question down in the comments down here about, some movies where you remember exactly where you were when you saw them. Thanks for watching, everybody. See ya. I still can't hear.